It's time for a Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it, because you did.
On Giants.com.
You know what I saw? New York Giant pride.
And the Giants mobile app.
17-14 is the final. One touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. Have some fun.
Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. I am John Schmeelk. I'm in a good mood today. He is Paul Dottino. He is also in a good mood today. The phone number for you is 201-939-4513. I feel like you. I only slept like 4 hours last night. I was so jacked up after the Knicks advanced to the conference semifinals. I think fall asleep till around like 2 or 2:30.
There you go. LGK. Let's go Knicks.
Yeah, nice win. And now the Indiana Pacers, for Knicks fans of my age, that's one of the arch nemesises that you grew up, nemesi, whatever it is, you grew up with, along with the Bulls and the Heat.
God.
So it should be a lot of fun. And like I yelled at Paul out before the show, do not look past the Indiana Pacers.
No,
it's gonna
never.
Be a tough
Can't. By the way, if Jalen Brunson were a football player, he would be one hell of a running back, wouldn't he?
He was. Someone put a stat up there last night. I retweeted it, where he's the first player since Michael Jordan in 4 straight playoff games to score at least 37 points or something like that. It's
unreal.
But you know what? And this is, let's reflect this back to the Giants roster. And I'm going to use a nice analogy. What we're going to do today, folks, we kind of know what the Giants roster is going to look like now. Might you have some periphery moves along the way, add a player here or there to fill up a roster spot, fill some holes? Sure. But I think, Paul, for the most part, this is going to be the core, right? This is what we have. This is what we're looking at. So Matt and Paul did a great job last couple of days talking about where maybe there's some holes still that you have to fill, where some of the weaknesses are. Well, we're going to take it from a different angle today. We're going to take a look, Paul, at now that we know who's on the roster, what is this team's play style going to be? How are they going to play? How are they going to try to win games? What's their most common path to victory based on the talent on this roster, right? So you look at the Knicks last night. You mentioned Jalen Brunson, their star, right? Scoring all these points. Without his immense skill set and ability to carry the team, the Knicks aren't even in these games. But what made this Knicks team work and what allowed them to win games and get as far as they did in the playoffs and win the series is the rest of the guys around Brunson complement him well. They have a play style that fits the coach, that fits the players, and every single one of the 9 players that were in that playoff rotation in round 1, okay? Every one of the 9 guys, and I'm including Precious Achiuwa and Bojan Bogdanovic in that group.
Till he got hurt.
Along with the 7 that played last night with McBride and Robinson off the bench and the 5 starters.
Right.
Every single one of those 9 players at one point in this series had a moment. Whether it was Precious at the end of Game 4, but Bogdanovic hit probably 2 big threes in almost every game he played in that helped him win games. DiVincenzo with the game-winning 3 and what he did defensively in Game 5. Josh Hart, he's had multiple moments throughout the series. Mitchell Robinson's defense on Embiid in a couple of games. Hartenstein's ability to play. He hit over double-digit points last. He had 10 points in the first half last night. He was a good player. Deuce McBride had multiple big threes over the course of the series. I've listed every player that played for the Knicks over the course of that.
The key word is contribution.
They all had moments in games that without that player in that game, you probably don't win. So that's how you have to look at this Giants roster now. Where can you put the pieces together to find the right scheme and play style to come out with victories?
I'd agree with that.
This Knicks team, tough, physical, offensive rebounds, junkyard dogs, plays defense. Jalen Brunson carries you offensively. But the way you put the rest of the pieces together into a cohesive unit that gives you a pathway to win games. So what in your mind is the pathway for this Giants team as constructed to figure out a way to win games and hopefully get back to the postseason?
Well, I think, to be honest with you, John, in a lot of ways, it will be similar to what the plan was going into last season before injuries totally derailed the team and everything went spiraling downhill. I think they want to spread the ball around offensively as much as possible. And whether, it's amongst the wide receivers or the running back by committee. Now, look, I think we all understand that Neighbors is an incredible talent, and he is going to get many of opportunities to have, 100-yard games this season, I'm sure. But I do think, for the most part, they want to be schematically oriented on offense. We know it's running back by committee, so that goes without question. Assuming Waller doesn't come back, the tight end is going to be a complementary part of the passing game. That's the one huge change. I think last year they wanted the 1,000-yard tight end. They wanted the 1,200-yard running back. And now they're going to go more by committee in the passing game and on the ground. I think that, to me, is the newfangled philosophy. But I still think, in general, the Giants are going to be a team that relies more on their defense, more on field position. I think there'll be an even greater emphasis on special teams because, quite honestly, they need to have more in the return game. They just didn't get nearly enough last year on their returns. But, whether or not it's done in a certain way with certain personnel or certain schematics, I still have the belief that the defense is going to have to be the force that drives most of this team's victories this year. I think they'll be better offensively, but hey, John, let's just say, for argument's sake, they scored 22 a game, which would be a hell of a jump from where they were last year. A hell of a jump. You're still going to have to play really good defense if you're going to have a winning record.
I agree from a 20,000-foot perspective.
Right. That's what I said.
I believe that this team is going to be a passing offense.
Yeah.
I think it's going to skew heavy pass. I think Brian Dable, in his heart of hearts, if you're able to shrink yourself down like the Magic School Bus. This is me having a 6-year-old girl. You can shrink down the Magic School Bus and you fly inside of somebody and you figure out what's going on in there, right? And in his soul, I think he wants to throw the football. That's what he wants to do. All right? And you, I think, have put together, based on the type of offensive lineman they brought in, guys that are better pass protectors, right?
I agree.
You hope Evan Neal can figure things out at right tackle. If not, you have a Jermaine Illuminor you can slide in there too. All right? And they have Devin Singletary, who was with them in Buffalo. Just look at his usage there. All right? He wasn't a 1,000-yard rusher. He was an 800 to 1,000-yard rusher. Somewhere that 800 to 900.
Never had 1,000. Not once.
Area, right?
Not once.
And I agree. He'll have help, whether it's Eric Gray or Tyrone Tracy or Gary Brightwell, whoever it ends up being that chips in as the second running back. But using the 6th overall pick on Malik Neighbors, having that can do everything, right? He can win over the top. He can win in the intermediate level. He can win in short passes, run. You can use him out of the backfield. He can do everything, right? He's your do-everything guy. I believe, personally, he is going to lead this. Of the non-running backs, he will lead this team in touches and targets. And frankly, I don't think it's going to be close. I think, unlike Jalen Hyatt, who was a downfield guy, it's so easy to scheme stuff up for Neighbors because of his run-after-catch ability. He's getting the ball, and he's getting the ball a ton. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be a bunch of deep dropbacks and Daniel Jones is going to hold the ball for 6 seconds and try to throw the ball. I think they're going to try to get the ball out quick. But I also think you have Wanda Robinson, another year off the ACL. We saw him slowly coming on at the end of last year where he looked more like himself. He's the guy they're going to want to get the ball to. You hope Jalen Hyatt can expand his route tree a little bit in his second year. We know about his speed to get deep. He complements Neighbors' skill set really well. We'll see about Waller at tight end. We just don't know about that yet. That's the one big question I think all of us still have. But this is a group of weapons that I think you have guys that can do different things, but all of them can make a big play on any given play. So I think this is going to be an offense where they're going to put the ball in Daniel Jones's hands. They're going to try to protect him a lot better with all the resources they threw at the offensive line, and they're going to let these wide receivers cook. And that's what I think this offense is going to be. And I think this is boom or bust. I don't think is the right term, Paul. But this could go really well if the young players develop quickly and the offensive line protects.
Sure.
Or if the protection's not where you need it to be and these young guys don't come along quickly, it could look bad. And it could look ugly. But you know what? I'd rather go for the high upside swing at this point, given your investments in those spots, including the quarterback position. Go for it. See how it works. And if it doesn't work, then you know for sure you have to make changes, and that's fine. But I'm all in. Give Daniel Jones the ball. Trust the guys you brought in on the offensive line. Trust Andrew Thomas. Trust John Michael Schmidt, second-round pick. Trust Evan Neal, first-round pick. Let this offense try to cook a little bit, and we'll see if it works.
I'll go a little more specific.
Please.
And say I think we will see, especially early in the season, a lot of quick game.
Oh, I'm with you, 100%.
A lot of quick game.
Wando Robinson, Malik Neighbors especially.
A lot.
I'm totally, and that's why I said
The
this
backs,
is not going
too.
to be a deep drop back deal. This is going to be the get the ball out quick type of deal to start the year.
Singletary can catch the ball.
Yep.
Tracy can catch the ball.
Yep.
Gray can catch the ball.
Yep.
All three of those backs can catch it.
Yep.
Um,
And Waller can be involved in the quick game too if he's healthy.
Sure he can. And quite honestly, even if he's not, Theo Johnson could.
Sure.
Now, I think there are two things to keep in mind if you're going to use a lot of quick game early. A, that gives the offensive line a better chance of survival because you're not putting a lot of pressure on them if you're going to go quick game.
And time to learn each other too, for that matter.
No question.
Mm-hmm.
Second, it also helps keep your quarterback healthy.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think that'll be a heavy dose in the first half of the season.
Or at least the first month. At worst, the first month.
First third?
Whatever. Yes.
If they find that they can be a little more daring and go a little more conventional and throw it downfield a little more, maybe run it a little bit more, if they start to see flashes like we can open up the playbook a little bit,
Little play action, get some deep shots, things like that.
then second half of the season, this Giants team could look a little different. But you're going to have to, I think, based on, and you made a great point a minute ago, we've talked about this off the air, the offensive linemen that they have brought in here to upgrade the offensive line from struggling to functional are better pass protectors. So that is, as much as anything, is a big reason why I think you've got to lean on the quick game early in the season. But again, to do that, if you're not going to get chunks and you're going to rely on Yak to get chunks, well, field position is going to have to be at a premium. Your defense and special teams are going to have to give you decent field position because you cannot consistently have poor field position and win with quick game.
Yeah, and look, I'll say this too, and then we'll dive into the defense a little bit more, how we think the defense is going to play, right? But we start with the offense, and that's fine. I would also like some help from the NFL schedule makers here.
Oh, boy.
And, you know, I did a podcast the other night. I recorded at 9 o'clock, one of the local Giant pods that I like to try to help out some of the guys that are trying to come up or whatever. And it was a really good conversation. He asked me some great questions. And I'll tweet that out when it gets posted so people can check it out. But when you take a look at it, Paul, for me, with this schedule, the Eagles secondary is still young, has questions. The Commanders secondary is young and has questions. The Bucs secondary lost Carlton Davis. They have some questions back there. The Ravens and Bengals are tough. They're tough. Vikings and Colts, they have some holes in the secondary that you can exploit. The Seattle Seahawks, they have a young secondary. That's not great. The Falcons do not have a great defense. The Panthers defense has talent. We got to see what it's like with the new coaching staff there. The Browns and Steelers defense, look, the AFC North's a tough division. Those are going to be
You can't get away from that.
Those are going to be really tough games.
That's
But
what you drew.
killed us last year, and folks, this isn't going back in time. I said this before they played the games early last year.
The schedule did not help.
You got not only tough teams, Paul, but you go back and you know, Warren Sharp, who I'll talk to him again this summer when you talk about preparing for the future, right? And he does a great job breaking down the Giants' opponents. And the Giants had the toughest pass defense schedule in the entire National Football League in the first half of last year. It was the toughest between secondary play and pass rush play. It was the toughest.
And that goes before any of the additional hurdles that were thrown in their way.
With all the injuries. On the offensive line, Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones, etc. So we warned you at the start of last year it was going to be a really tough go throwing the football early in the year because of the opponents, and then the injuries made it 10 times worse. If you could get some of these teams that maybe, like, can you not load up the schedule with the AFC North teams until October? Can you stay away from those AFC North teams and the Cowboys until you get to October for a year, please? Like, don't let me look at the schedule and see Dallas, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati as 3 of your first 5 opponents.
Exactly.
Can I please avoid that, please?
Right. I do.
And that would let the offense at least get going a little bit.
No doubt.
Before you start facing some of the toughest defense on the schedule. Like, can you give me the Vikings in the first month of the year? Can you slide in the Panthers or the Falcons? Please? Like, don't give me 3 primetime games in the first 6 weeks against the Steelers, Ravens, and Cowboys. Please. Can you wait till November for those? And that'll be my last comment on the offense.
Mike
okay?
North is not listening to you.
Oh, I'll text Mike right now.
He's not listening to you.
And he will say, "Oh yeah, Schmeelk, like you're the least of my worries." Like Dabo and Shane and John Mara aren't the ones texting him about that anyway.
Oh,
but
and
that'll be the last thing I say, because I think the schedule makers can help here. Because the last look, you cannot, and we've said this before, you cannot afford another 1-4 and 1-5 start. You just can't. You got to be 3-3 through 6 games. Like that's all I'm asking for. Be 3-3 through 6 games. And look, we'll have the schedule released in a couple weeks, and we'll have a better idea of what it's going to look like. But Mike North, if you could help me out a little bit here and give me a couple of not the hardest games in the world in the first 4 or 5 weeks, I'd really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Stick the weakest pass rushers up in September, okay?
Please.
That'll be fine. We'd be good with that.
Yes, absolutely.
And by the way, we'll trade off and play every other holiday if you want. But just give me... I'll trade that off.
Well, yeah, you don't have any young children at home.
That's true.
I will not trade that off.
Well, I would. Give me all the weakest pass rushers in September, and then we'll play every holiday. I'm good.
Christmas and Thanksgiving the last 2 years, and this guy's trying to give away my holidays.
I don't want to face difficult fronts in the early part of the schedule.
All right, now let's talk about the defense here.
Yes.
Okay? Look, the strength is up front here, Paul. So
yeah, for sure.
And to me...
Front
this
7.
is going to be low numbers in coverage. Keep everything in front of you. Mm-hmm. And much like I said, let Daniel Jones cook. You let that pass rush cook. You know? You put guys in coverages that they can handle. You keep guys over the top with corners and safeties. And you say, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, we're sending you 3 and maybe one other guy, depending on the play. And you are going to have to win and get home. Because we are going to load up guys in the secondary, and we are not going to let teams get over the top on us. You guys better be able to stop the run. You better be able to get to the quarterback. Because of the youth that's in that secondary, you're going to have to throw numbers back there so the guys can work it as a unit, and you're not putting guys out there on islands.
Yeah, I don't think there's much doubt about that. I mean, when you consider what Bowen's done before, and then you consider where the front 7 is top-heavy for the Giants as opposed to the secondary, which still has a lot of what if. I mean, let's be honest about it. There are bodies back there. You have safeties, you have corners, but there's still what if this guy's good. What if this guy's not good?
I mean, even
you just don't know.
Even Deonte Banks, the guy you feel the best about after his rookie
He's
year.
only a second-year player.
Right, and even though he played good coverage last year, he still allowed plays over his head.
I know. He's a second-year player. So
I have all the confidence in the world in his physical ability to become better and do it, but we haven't seen, like he was put in the opportunity. He did his best last year, but we still have to see it.
The secondary is still a what-if proposition. You just can't get away from that. So it just makes perfect sense to be of the more conservative nature, which is what Bowen showed in Tennessee anyway.
Correct.
So I will say this, though, John. What I'm really curious about, and I don't know if you and I were doing the show when we talked about this the other day, but we heard that word versatility used a lot under Wink. I've heard that word emphasized even more so this spring.
You know what the trick is, Paul? I think all coaches like versatility.
I think
I think everyone loves it.
The game is turned into that.
Yeah.
Because of all the different sub packages. If you have versatility, you can cut down on the substitutions.
And look, so much.
And you can also use disguises.
Sorry for interrupting.
You're right.
And you literally just took the word out of my mouth that I was going to say. So much of NFL defense now is about disguising what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's what it is. The same way offense has now used motion to confuse defenses. Mm-hmm. What defenses do now is that post-snap, what they showed you pre-snap is not what you're doing post-snap. So as soon as that ball is snapped, guys shift and move. So what looked like cover 2 pre-snap is now man-to-man. What looked like cover 3 pre-snap is now cover 6. Right? And you change stuff post-snap to make that quarterback hesitate. Just that extra second, that extra half a second to give your defensive front a chance to get home. And in order to do that, you need guys that could do multiple things. Because if you have a safety and all you can do is play in the box, well, guess what? You can't disguise with him. Because
cannot.
the defense knows you're not going to put him in a certain coverage that they can exploit. So that's why versatility, I think, is so important. And I think Shane Bowen disguised with him, Paul. Wink disguised blitzes, right? He disguised pressures, and he used those loaded fronts and moving the secondary. It's different with Bowen. Bowen's going to shift safeties up and down. He's going to shift, different guys into coverage in different spots. It's a different type of disguise, but it's still post-snap disguise that's going to give this defense its character.
We told you folks when he was hired, it's more like Patrick Graham's defensive scheme than it is Wink Martindale's. And that's just one of the ways you have to skin a cat. You don't have to be all pressure all the time. You don't have to be all disguise all the time. You can find a happy medium if you want, or you can lean on one or the other.
And this, frankly, Paul, is much more similar, if that's the correct phraseology, that the rest of the league uses. This is what most of the league looks like.
That is true.
The Giants have been like the last couple of years, like a couple teams do that. That was it. Now the Giants defense is going to look like, remember every year we go into these games and we're like, well, that team's going to play the bend but don't break defense, and let the Giants get over the top. They can have them methodically work the ball down the field.
Yep.
Well, that's what the Giants defense is going to be now.
Yeah. Now, here's the one thing, though, that is going to be difficult.
With elite pass rushers, by the way, which is what makes that type of defense.
Yes, and
they
got him here now.
Yeah, and they've had to play that way. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
The one thing that is curious to me is we think this is a smart group of players. I mean, the guys who are held over from last year's defense, they seem very heady.
Okereke specifically.
Yeah. Lawrence, Thibodeau, Banks seems to really understand what he's doing. Pinnock does.
You hope Newbin, is, by all accounts, is one of those
seems
guys
to be, right? Well,
even a guy like McLeod was a smart player.
No question.
Multiple positions.
Absolutely.
Like
So for me, my curiosity is we just explained or outlined what we kind of think you'll see from a general philosophical perspective. But to be able to execute that properly, you have to trust and rely on your guys to be on the same page, to execute those disguises, and not to have a bunch of mental errors and busted coverages, or you are cooked.
Because then it looks bad. It looks very
bad.
Yeah.
Ugly. Worse than bad.
100%.
Ugly.
That's a great point.
So,
and you might see hiccups early in the year with that sort of stuff too, as these guys figure this stuff out.
So when do those guys prove to the new coordinator that they can be trusted, that they can handle it, and that they're not going to have those MEs and those busts before he can totally have the confidence in them to say, okay, we're locked into this. This is how we're going to run it, and I know I can trust you to do it. I think, is that going to take the preseason, first 3 or 4 games of the regular season, halfway through the regular season? As much as we talk about the offensive line having to prove that they're functional, and under what pressures are they going to face as they attempt to do that, well, the reverse is in play, in my opinion, for the defense. They got to prove that they can handle the scheme he wants, and at the same time, don't allow their mistakes to be too costly.
All right, folks, go check out the Giants Huddle podcast. We're not going to have as frequent episodes. Pearson begged me, said, Schmeelk, I really want to go back to 5 days a week here, but we're not. So for the next few months, we're going to be around 2 days a week, some days 3, depending on if we start getting some of these player interviews in July. But the Giants Huddle podcast, a lot of interviews. We're doing a lot of draft review stuff over there, too. Jeff Risden's interview is up there right now. Next week, we'll have Rick Saratella coming on, a good friend of the program, and he'll go through the undrafted free agent class as well. So make sure you guys go check out the Giants Huddle podcast. It's on the Giants app, podcast platforms everywhere. And we do have one more episode of draft season coming your way. We have our full draft review up there right now. And then next week, we're going to have a brief look ahead to 2025. Paul, I've been watching the 2025 draft class this week. That's what I've been doing with my time.
Can't do it.
A lot of defense and a lot of pass rushers, defensive tackles and defensive ends in next year's class, and some corners. So it's going to be a much heavier defensive class after this year.
After all, the offensive players went so high this year.
And you know what? The quarterback class might not be as bad as people say either. I think you might have a few first-round quarterbacks out there.
Look,
but again,
until these guys get on the field in September, nobody knows.
Well, I mean, you obviously watched what they did last year.
You
so
can
you have an
guess.
idea of the players, but guys come out of nowhere, they fall back.
Oh, yeah.
There's a whole lot of football left to be played. But anyway, go check out draft season. That'll air sometime mid next week, but the full draft review is still up there. All right, let's get to the calls. 201-939-4513. We'll, of course, take all your calls on the draft, too, if you still want to talk about the draft class. That and a whole lot more. And just as a reminder, folks, two things. Rookie minicamp is not this weekend, it's next weekend, all right? So we're not going to have anything on the rookies coming in and working on the field. And again, I want to temper expectations, but Brian Daboll's last two rookie minicamps, they really didn't do any team stuff at all. It was almost all drills and stuff, so we're probably not going to have a whole lot for you from those two couple rookie minicamp practice when they happen next Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
But that's when they're happening, just FYI. And we do not have a show on Monday for Big Blue Kickoff Live, just an FYI there, folks. We have our staff and a lot of our talent have commitments to other things, and we frankly ran out of people. So I know we rarely if ever miss a show, but it's a little quiet this part of the offseason, not a whole lot going on. So we're taking Monday off, but then we'll be back the rest of the way. And we're going to have the week of the 4th of July off as well. But otherwise, we'll start rolling in our opponent previews in June and July and all that other stuff. So Big Blue Kickoff Live will roll on. Vinny in Florida, you're up next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. You're going to lead us off today. Vinny, what's up?
Hey, guys, I don't know if you remember me from calling last year. It's been a while. I took a new job, and I'm working my butt off. So
Well, that's good, Vin. It's good to hear, man. I hope all is well.
Yeah. Couple things I wanted to say, and then I want to ask you guys to get out your crystal ball. So the first thing I wanted to say, it made me absolutely nauseously sick to watch Saquon Barkley rooting for the 76ers yesterday in the Knicks 76ers.
Now, Vinny, the sad thing is that I think he's always been a Sixer fan, and he really, we didn't see Saquon at the Garden much for Knick games.
I don't remember any
and I go to Knick
events
games a
of
lot,
that
and I
nature.
watch almost all of them. They show all the Giant players. He was rarely there, so it honestly did not surprise me. And you know what? It's a good warm-up, Vin, for what Giant fans are going to have to deal with this year
boy.
when the Giants play the Eagles. So let that just kind of settle in because that's what it is now.
Vin, without any inside information, I will tell you right now, you can count on Giants in Philadelphia in a primetime game.
Oh, my gosh.
Early in the schedule.
I think that's
that
correct.
is a lock.
Yeah. I don't think week one. But I think
It's not gonna
sometime
be a
in
homecoming,
September.
That's for sure.
Oh, you know what?
It's gonna be
It's a good question. I bet you they will probably want to have Saquon in the Meadowlands for that.
I think
right?
so, too.
I think it'd be a MetLife, and I agree.
I think
with
so,
you.
too.
Yeah. Hey, before I get to asking you about the crystal balls,
Yeah.
the one position that was not addressed was defensive tackle.
Yeah.
Am I mistaken, or I thought they signed like a 350-pound
Phillips.
guy, and I don't.
Yeah, Jordan Phillips. He's been in the league
That's
like
it.
7-8 years, but he's more of a bigger nose tackle-y type. So
Right.
he's a guy that can. I think what we're going to see now, folks, and Vinny, I think it's a great point. Now that they haven't really brought in a 3 technique in the draft class, we'll see if an undrafted free agent might be able to play that spot, and I think that's a possibility. We'll see when they make that announcement next week. I think we might see Dexter Lawrence at the 3 technique more this year, which is fine. I mean, he's quick enough to do it. He's a good pass rusher.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see him at that 3 tech spot, playing between the guard and the tackle, maybe a little bit more than we're going to see him at nose compared to past years.
I've thrown out,
I'm
I think,
only-
Ryder Anderson and Boogie Basham could potentially be in there. I haven't really thought about using Dexter there, only because I feel so good about where he's come. I don't want to fuss with him.
I think on early downs you can live with it. I think when you get into passing downs, and you can always move Thibodeau inside there at the 3 technique if you want to. I think you'll see Dexter as a pass rusher over the center on passing downs, which is where he was really effective last year anyway. So I think that's okay.
This
it
is
might
a-
help your run defense, right? If you get Jordan Phillips in there at nose and run downs and Dexter at the 3, good luck running against that.
This is a very interesting predicament that they're going to have to solve. And, I'll say this. The draft wasn't very deep there at the 3 technique spot. We had a few guys that we kind of liked.
Well, they all went off the board early second
but
round.
that was the problem.
Picked.
It wasn't deep.
Makai Wingo's the only guy that dropped, and there must have been something going on with him for him to drop to the
he
sixth
dropped way
round.
too far.
I don't understand why he dropped that far.
He was sticking out like a sore thumb on the board as we were going through the rounds.
And then him and Christian Mahogany both went to the Lions in the sixth round. Two very good picks.
So my feeling is they probably have an idea of what they're going to do with the guys internally, and there may be some surprises there.
Yeah.
All right. Now the crystal ball. You guys got your futuristic hats on. I want to ask about some of the draft picks.
Are you calling my bald head a crystal ball, Vinny? Is that what you're doing to me?
As long as Paulie rubs it.
No. We ain't doing that, bro.
No, sir.
That was a good line, though.
Very good line.
But if I go to the safety on the second round, we're talking Xavier McKinney compared to that. How much of a drop-off in year one, and what do you think he can make up, or can he develop quickly? I know he's targeted as good, but I want to go by a couple of draft picks and ask this. So here's the first one.
Okay.
What's the drop-off? What can we expect as, hey, this is a positive sign for, year two, year three, and he's trending to be a better. And so let's start with that guy. What's the drop off? Where do you think, kind of what's I guess that's the question.
No, I got you, Vin.
I'm concerned about it's a massive drop off.
I don't think it will be. I would like to see him on the field and actually play football before I make a definitive decision. But that's why this is crystal ball, and this is not,
Well, that's what he asked for.
I know. I got you. I'm rubbing the head. What I would say is the advantage of a guy like Newbin is that he was in college for 6 years. He had over 40 starts at Minnesota, and he's a very intelligent player that played that single high safety position at Minnesota. So what he's going to be asked to do here, he was asked to do at college, and he did it in college a lot, and he did it well. So I don't think there's going to be a huge drop-off, though you're always going to have rookie growing pains. Like, you always have to give a rookie a chance to figure things out. Safety is a complicated position. You have to see a lot of things. The offenses in the NFL are a lot more complicated than they are in college. So, Newbin saw everything at the college level. He's going to come in, he's going to be like, well, what is this stuff that I'm looking at?
Well, that's why Mills is here and Belton's here.
Correct. So I think down the road, McKinney's a little bit of a better athlete than Newbin is, but I think from an intelligence and smarts and instinct standpoint, I think Newbin will hopefully figure it out pretty quickly.
I'll give you two thoughts on this. Number one, when the Giants got McKinney at the beginning of the second round, there were a lot of folks who thought they got a steal that he had a low first-round grade on him.
Right.
Newbin did not have. Did not have a first-round grade on him.
Mostly because of his running time, though.
Exactly.
His tape, I think, was close to being a late first-round grade.
Half a step slow.
Yeah.
Okay, but great with anticipation and smarts and hits. He wraps up and he gets turnovers. There's a lot to like about him, but he did not have a low first-round grade on him. So consider that a little bit of an issue if you want to project. The other item that I would say is that if you're asking him to be Xavier McKinney of 2023, well, the first half of Xavier McKinney wasn't very good. In fact, to be frank with you, he was very inconsistent, and he didn't pick up his game until the second half of the season when he played like a Pro Bowler for like the final 2 months.
Right. But he played every snap, didn't he?
Okay, yes,
I
he
would
did.
say almost 3 months. I think his last 3 months were honestly pretty good.
Point
Anyway,
is,
yes.
if you're looking for that McKinney to compare him to, you're not going to find it. Not right away. Not as a rookie. But if you want to compare him to the McKinney we saw first month of the season, it's probably not going to be that much of a drop-off. Because this was a guy who, I don't want to say this because I don't want to speak for him, but I think it's fair to say he was incredibly disappointed, maybe more than he should have been, that he did not get a contract extension going into the last year of his deal. And knowing how emotional he is, I believe that may have impacted him at the beginning of the season. And that's strictly my belief and my theory based on the feel that I got from him.
All right, what's your second player, Vin?
My second player, before I ask the second one, do you think it's any chance that he can get more interceptions than McKinney because I hear the guy's a ball hawk.
In year one, no, but down the road, yes.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. Second guy, we're trading off what I would say Adoree Jackson for the cornerback. That would my thoughts. That's kind of the trade-off there.
Sure.
And what's your thought on drop-off there? I thought Adoree Jackson had a really good year last year.
Yeah, I'm not sure the Giants thought that. And I think it was probably his worst year as a Giant,
Inconsistent.
to be honest with you. And that's
Really?
But well, the reason though is that he was played inside a little bit more, and that's something he wasn't accustomed to. I thought he was much better outside than inside. I think if the Giants thought he had a really good year, that he'd probably be here right now. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
I mean he's still a free agent, and they could have brought him back if they wanted to. I think he's better playing outside than inside. I think Phillips is a better inside player than an outside player. So I'm not sure that's a one-to-one comparison necessarily.
I don't
because
think it
they're
is
gonna
either.
be playing different spots.
And the other thing,
Who's
too,
gonna
is that
play
Adoree
that?
got nicked up some last year. Remember the concussion and stuff?
That's true.
He did
Yeah.
he did get knocked out of the lineup a little bit.
Yeah, Vinny, appreciate the call, man. Outside, I heard your question. I'm not sure who's going to play outside. Frankly, I'm not sure Andrew Phillips is going to be your day one slot either. Slot corner in the NFL is hard.
Guess what?
He's a third-round pick.
You can join Shane Bowen. I don't think he knows today either.
No, I think, and I said this the other day, I think this is going to be as wide open of a competition, and we had this last year for the second cornerback spot too, right? As we got through training camp. I think it's going to be a wide open competition for not just the outside spot, but for the slot spot. And I think it's almost a connected competition, right? Because you have to pick your best duo.
Yeah.
It's not like because your best guy might at both spots might be the same guy.
Could be.
So then you have to figure out, okay, well, who's my second best guy and what is he best at? And that'll determine where you put your best guy at. So this is going to be a big-time feeling out process for Bowen over the course of the spring and summer as to how he's going to fill out those cornerback spots next to Deontay Banks.
It would be really easy, really, really easy if the best-case scenario occurred, and that would be Trey Hawkins showed that from being a raw onion last year and having to be taken out of the lineup because he was just too raw when he started the season, if he somehow has a very quick, rapid, and very high ascension coming out of training camp and is able to just say, hey, we got a 6-foot corner, boom, he's staying there right on that corner on the boundary, and we're done with it. That would be so great.
There's also a chance Trey Hawkins isn't on the roster.
We don't know.
That's the thing.
We don't know.
I mean, we just don't know.
He is an unquantifiable entity right now.
So is Aaron Robinson.
Yeah. I would love, best case scenario for the Giants is that either one of those guys has a great camp and can lock down that spot. So then all you have to do is tell all these other fellas, the Holmeses, the Flotts, the Phillips, tell all these other guys, okay, you know what? The slot's there. You guys fight it out for that one position because we're not worried about the boundary. We can put this other guy out there and just leave him alone. That would be the best case scenario. I don't know that that's going to happen, though.
Yeah, or one of those two guys, or both, might not even be good enough to be on the
Both
53.
might not even make it.
So
We don't know.
I mean, look, I think we all feel pretty confident that Flott's going to be on the 53. We feel,
Sure.
We feel very confident that Nick McLeod will be on the 53. I mean, I would think David Long, given his veteran standing, probably will be. But, I mean, at this point,
Don't know.
beyond those three, would I start etching things in stone? Obviously,
No.
Andrew Phillips, third-round pick, he's going to be there.
Well, yeah.
But beyond those four, I mean, I'm not overly confident enough to say that anyone else I even know is going to be here. You know what I mean? I think this is a legit competition.
Yeah.
Period. Stop.
And it needs to be.
Yeah. May the best man win. Rocco is in Long Island. What's up, Rocco?
Guys, what's up?
What's up?
How you doing?
Good.
Yeah, I just wanted to, say a couple things about the draft this year. First, you guys did great coverage. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
As always. But I'm a big. I like Newman. I think he looks to me like even a future captain candidate. He just seems like that type of guy.
No, I agree with that,
And I
Rocco.
feel
I'm
like-
with you. I think you're right.
I see a lot of promise in him, and I also see a lot of promise in the tight end. I kind of like what I see from the just the tape. I love the size, and that I just feel like I could see him running down the seam and making plays, something that we haven't had.
Well, I mean,
as far as-
I'll mention this, and I've said it on the shows before, and I'll say it one more time. I think Theo Johnson is going to be a more productive NFL player than he was in college.
Oh, yeah, I would hope so.
Because
Yeah,
at Penn
I
State,
think so too. I didn't think they used them right.
They did not have much of a bite in their passing game, nor at how they use their tight ends.
And Rocco, you hit it with his frame, catch radius, and size. You're right. He screams a guy that should have success running down the seam. I agree with that 100%.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and honestly, I know you guys watch college ball. I know maybe some of the other callers or people aren't. You know, tight ends aren't really. They don't really use tight ends that well in college.
No, they don't.
Like they do in the NFL.
100%.
You know, it's a big projection position. You know, you got to really, it's a hit or miss. But
and Rocco, that's why in these drafts now, what these general managers do, tight end is a traits position. You pick the guys that are big, strong, long, powerful athletes that can run, and then you hope you coach them up enough where you turn them into a player in the NFL. You're 1,000%. You're all over it. You could not be more right.
Without a doubt. And another thing, he catches the ball with he goes up and gets the ball with his hands. He's got hands. So I do see promise in these two guys. Obviously, Neighbors is great, but you know, on a negative side, nothing right now. But a lot of people, including myself, would have liked a 3-technique player. You know, would have loved an offensive lineman that was out there. You know, the Cowboys got him, and you know, look at teams like the Cowboys and teams like the Eagles. You know, obviously, you hate to see the Eagles get these 2 cornerbacks.
Yeah, I know.
But they still need, because they don't really have a lot of need. And the problem with the Giants of late is that they have so much need, and they just don't have the amount of picks or the amount of picks high enough to fill all these needs. You know, I would love to have a 3-technique, D tackle. I would love to get the stud guard Young, but that's been the problem. And if you really look back, you know, obviously we build these teams through draft, and you know, you guys should really even go through that draft. You know, you want to grade drafts, you should be looking at the drafts a few years ago. You know, specifically look at the draft. I mean, I know it's not this regime, but I'm talking about an organization. It's still the Giants. Look at the draft with Ellerson Smith. I love Ojulari. I mean, I know some guys are down on him. I think he really gets to the quarterback. I just wish he could stay healthy, but he's really got that dip it and rip it move, and I think he goes for that ball. But you know, look at that draft. I mean, it's just go down the players. I mean, you should even go over it right now. It's horrible, and honestly, that's why there are these openings on the team with concern. I mean,
too many washouts. Really, it's too many washouts.
No, Rocco, that's
all you need to say.
Rocco, you are 1,000% correct. This is why we spend so much time on the draft here, because it is by far the most important thing every NFL team does every offseason, much more important than free agency, because you're right. The reason the Eagles and Cowboys in a lot of ways are able to have these good drafts is because they have really good rosters already, so they could focus solely in on, all right, this is the best player. All right, we're just going to take that guy. Now, the Eagles got fortunate this year. The corners fell to them, and they got lucky. Look, it happens sometimes, and the Eagles were fortunate. But the other thing, too, Rocco, real quick, 100% Rocco, real quick, if you draft well, not only do you have fewer holes on your roster so that you can then draft with more freedom, right? You also eventually lose guys in free agency because you don't have enough salary cap space to sign them, then you get comp picks. So your good drafting results in comp picks later on, so you get more picks, so you can either package those picks for players, you could package them to move up, or like the Eagles this year, they knew they weren't going to have any. They knew they weren't going to have any comp picks next year because they sent a lot of free agents. So what did they do? They made 9 trades. They picked up 3 picks next year in rounds 3, 4, and 5. So even though they don't have comp picks next year, guess what? They're so comfortable in their roster that they're, all right, we'll trade down. We'll pick up extra picks next year. The Giants do that. You maybe don't have a starting safety or a starting quarter next year, and you're sunk. So that's why it does take time, and it does take some patience with the new regime, and why it takes more than just 3 draft classes and 2 free agent periods to build up a roster where you can start creating that pattern here. You have a lot of guys on rookie contracts that are starting for you. You don't have a lot of holes. You pick up comp picks, and that process, literally, if you're doing it the right way, continues to repeat itself every year. So you're constantly restopping young, cheap talent through the draft. And that's how teams like the Ravens, teams like the Cowboys, teams like the Eagles that continually draft well and recycle this process over and over again to have a complete roster. And to your point, when you have a draft class where you're looking at one player that contributed to you at all in Azeez Ojulari, that's going to haunt you for years. It's going to haunt you for years. By the way, that's why you go back and look at the 2nd through 7th round picks from 2013 to 2017. You'll see why the Giants were bad for a long time real fast.
Yeah.
It's not complicated.
No, without a doubt. And I hate saying it, but if you look at the Eagles and Dallas, I mean, I know I'm I've been for a while, I'm a diehard Giant fan, but those two are properly run organizations. They really are. And even when they draft, I mean, they're not trying to be cute. They're drafting great, solid players. Like, there's no, who is this guy? They just get them. I mean, they don't try to be cute and fancy and try to be smarter than the next guy. They really draft great players.
Well, Rocco, the Eagles try to be cute sometimes.
Oh, they do.
The Eagles try to be cute with all their trades a little bit sometimes.
Don, they could be cute because they have the ability to now.
That's true. And 1,000% true, Rocco. And you hope with the new regime in place that this is what you're going to have now with the Giants, right? That's why they made the move to Joe Shane a couple years ago, because they want to create an organization that operates like those teams that you talked about. And that's what the Commanders are trying to do too with Adam Peters, right?
No,
that's what all these teams are right. And that's what the Cardinals are trying to do down there with all their picks. That's what these organizations are trying to do. And now I think Joe Shane understands that the path you're talking about is the path. That's what you have to do, right? Now, the tricky part is you got to pick the right players and pick good players to execute the damn thing, and that's where it gets really hard.
Understand this, too. Everything John just said is part of Exhibit A about why you don't force a high draft pick. Because the risk-reward, when you force a high draft pick on a position just because the fans out there or the media out there insists you're going to take this guy, well, now you're asking for trouble because you will do over your franchise for years.
I
can't
agree.
force a pick. That's just dumb.
Yeah, go ahead, Rocco.
Just another thing real quick, and I'll hang up and listen to you guys.
Really good call, Rocco. Rocco, by the way, real quick, because I know you're going to hang up. Really good points. Excellent phone call, by the way. Excellent call.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. As far as Daniel, I'm a big fan of Daniel. I always have been. I see his traits and I see his skills, and I just don't see that in a lot of quarterbacks. I know people sometimes think I'm crazy, but I just wish, and I kind of saw it when we went to the playoffs that year, towards the end of the season, even particularly in that playoff game. But I wish he would move with the ball more horizontally instead of vertically, and just try to prolong his time.
You better have a line that's athletic enough to help him out to do that.
Well, I think his point, though, he wants him to scramble. Rocco, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you want him to scramble to throw more rather than scramble to run.
Hey, I'm with you.
It's there. It's in him. I've seen him do it. I know he has the ability to. I just want him to just, instead of just putting his head down and running and focusing on that maybe more. And if he does run, if he is listening, which I highly doubt he is, please start to slide.
Well, that's another issue for another day.
If there's 10 yards, take the 5 or 6. You're not the running back, please. And that's it, guys. Thank you. I'll listen and appreciate it.
Thank you, Rocco.
The auxiliary point to what he said and then you went into is that
I know it went a long time. I'm sorry. I just thought the thing about the draft had to be said because it's absolutely true.
No, it's absolutely fine. The point to add, though, is that look at the Giants' top 2 executives. Joe Shane came from a team that had to build from the ruins in the Buffalo Bills, and Brandon Brown came from a team that also had to build from some bad times with the Philadelphia Eagles.
And Brandon Brown also came from a the Eagles use every way to do things.
Correct.
Right? They do trades. They do everything. So he knows that. And by the way, free agents weren't going to the Bills.
No.
Like, you ain't having these high-flying... You know where I want to sign for big money? I want to go to Buffalo.
Yeah, play there in December and January. Can't
was
wait.
saying that. You have to draft well.
So 2 top executives from organizations that figured out the various ways to win, okay? Both land here as GM and assistant GM. They have seen, they have lived all of the different ways that it takes to take a team from ruin, to build it, and to have something substantial and stable. Yeah. I have tremendous confidence in those 2 guys.
Me too. All right, let's go to James in Georgia. He's up next. Hey, James.
Hey, guys. What's going on?
What's up?
I missed the opening, so if y'all talked about the Knicks, let's go Knicks.
Yes, we did a little bit,
on
James.
To the next,
yes.
On to the next round. You know, I was tweeting with you, John, right after the game, too. So it's going to be, I think this was one of our harder series. I ain't going to put nothing past going forward. But
James, this was not your normal 2-7 series. This was like a 2-3 series. That's what
James, how old are you, James?
I'm 38.
Okay.
Born in January '86.
The Patrick Ewing era, okay, they had a stretch there where they did a minimum of 2 rounds in the playoffs. I want to say it was 9 straight years and 11 out of 14.
It was like
during the Patrick Ewing era.
92 to 99.
Okay? Mm-hmm. I mean,
every year they got to the second round of the playoffs, except for one.
All right,
when
they
Ewing was hurt.
They went 4 times to the NBA semis and twice to the NBA finals. Okay, the whole era there. What we saw now, what you're living in now, this was commonplace for those Knicks teams.
This was probably the toughest first round series that I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was pretty rough.
Yes, sir.
Except,
it got
except for the 1-8 Knicks Heat, the year that that was, besides that one, obviously.
And there was a lot of heat, too, if I can pull a pun, in that series.
And really, just talking about Game 2 and Game 5 with missed calls and last second shots and things like that. 2 of them in one series, you rarely see that.
All right, James, what's your Giants point, bud?
All right, so I know, not to say that the Giants have money or resources to do anything about it. If you put on your GM hat again, because I called yesterday about putting on your GM hat.
Yeah.
What are some positions that the Giants are having to concede that, we're going to take our lumps at these positions because we're going to have growing pains? I know y'all touched on a lot of the things I actually wanted to ask you already during the beginning of the show. And what position do you think is our thinnest or our weakest? And not saying that, we're looking to upgrade. Like I know we talked about we need corner. We're still thin at defensive tackle. But what position do you think, all right, we got bodies there, but this is still our weakest link? What during, before the season starts, do you think Giants fans should be looking at, oh, yeah, this is our liability position, and we're just going to have to, like you said, protect around it with better players, or, live through some growing pain because we have younger players who are not going to be, great as rookies, but they're going to grow into some better,
good question, James.
Nubin. And do you see Antro Roll in Nubin? And I'll listen up the air, guys.
Thank you. I think Roll is a better athlete in terms of moving around.
Roll
That's why
could
he was
cover
able
the
to,
slot.
That's why he was able to play corner a little bit in the slot.
And Roll
100%.
came in as a corner.
Right.
If you remember, when Antro Roll started with the Cardinals, he was a cornerback.
And to answer his question, I mean, can I say any position besides corner? I think that's the one. I think that's the one where you have the most unknowns right now. And luckily, again, this is a zone-heavy scheme. It's not like Wink scheme where you get those corners on an island, so you can live with it a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But I think if there's a weakness for me that I think you're going to have to mitigate a little bit, it's corner, just because you have so many young guys there, and you're not sure what you're going to get out of them in this system. It could work out great, but right now that's where I would have the most things where I'm still trying to figure out exactly what it's going to look like.
Well, the last 2 days, Matt and I were talking about, we think it's a little hazy in terms of the depth at offensive line, specifically at tackle, not so much on the interior.
I mean, they have 3 offensive tackles.
I know.
They just need a fourth one.
Is Matt Nelson the guy? Is he the swing tackle for sure?
I mean, does every team always have 4 offensive tackles on their active roster?
I know. What I'm saying is I'd like someone to compete with him. I don't want to just give him the third tackle spot opening
He's
day.
not the third tackle. Jermaine Illuminor is the third tackle.
If you don't want to move Illuminor, let's say.
Oh no, but they are. Like they are going to.
I'm sure they will.
That's the thing. They are going to move.
I'm sure they will. I'd rather them not have to, though.
Well, of course not. You want
because it
Evan Neal
affects
to be
two
out
positions.
There. I understand. Well, the better question is, what happens if they decide through all the offseason stuff that Neal's a guard?
Well,
then
that's another whole game.
Then you don't have a third tackle.
No,
that's when it becomes
not at
a
all.
problem. I'm okay if Neal's your right tackle and Illuminor is your swing guy, and even if he starts at guard week 1 and then you got to push him out the tackle.
I hate to switch two positions though.
Yeah, but then you slide in Stingy.
But you can, but I hate to do it.
I know.
Anyway, point is, I don't want to just give Matt Nelson a guaranteed spot on the team. I'd like someone to push him. And then the other spot was the 3 technique spot.
Or maybe maybe they see Azudu as a tackle. They put him there last year. It didn't go well, but they put him there last year.
I'm not in favor of that.
I'm just he played there last year.
I
That's all I'm
know.
saying.
I know.
Let's go to Aiden in New Jersey. He's up next. Hi, Aiden.
Hi, how's it going?
We're good, man.
Okay, so I was wondering what you guys think. Obviously, with Saquon, it was mainly a one back offense, and now we have Maurice Neighbors and as like our top weapon. I was wondering if you think the Giants' offense becomes more of a pass-heavy offense, or how the scheme's going to change.
Yeah, look, I think, and Aiden, appreciate the call, man. I think Brian Daboll wants it to be a pass-heavy offense. Even at times last year when Saquon was healthy, we saw it be a more pass-heavy offense. Second, even the year the Giants went to the playoffs. Guys, you look at Saquon's touches starting in December that year and going through the playoffs. I don't think he got 20 carries in one game.
No.
He was down around 15. So I think it's going to be a much more pass-heavy system. Again, I think to Paul's point that he made earlier, it'll be a lot of quick stuff early in the year. But I think it will be a more pass-heavy system. It's going to be a running back by committee. I think Singletary will probably get 60 to 70% of the snaps, and then the other 30 to 40% will get split between whoever, frankly, earns them, between the guys on the roster.
I think the other reason is, too, if Daboll and Kafka are going to heavily rely on their schematics and their ingenuity, there's only so many ways you can scheme up a running play. There are many, many more ways with the motion and the different guys in different spots and the different routes that you run that you can scheme up a pass play. And so there's an opportunity for more confusion being thrown at a defense if you're going to rely more on your passing plays. The other thing that I think is that Daboll and Kafka wanted to get faster at the skill position players. They've done that with Robinson. They've done that with Hyatt. They've done that with Neighbors.
It's taken a few years to get there, but they've gotten
right.
there.
They've gotten there.
And Slayton's fast too, by the way.
Slayton's got good speed too. And now they just took themselves another running back in the 5th round who's also got speed and plays well in open space.
And Theo Johnson can run a tight end as well.
Okay, see, when you consider that, you say to yourself, all right, so Daboll and Kafka really want to get guys in space because they want to get a lot of yak yardage. Well, to get that, you're going to lean more on the pass. You're not going to lean more on the run. Not if you want to prioritize yak yardage.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think, this is not going to be throw it 50 times a game offense.
No, I hope not.
But I think it will be more of a passing offense than a running offense, and we'll see how that goes. Guys, don't forget, if you want to become a Giants season ticket member, you can be connected to the team all year round. Stay connected to the club. Take your fans to the next level, not just on game days. Memberships are now available for the 2024 season. To learn more about all the exclusive member benefits, visit Giants.com/tickets. Limited inventory is available. And also don't forget that Giants TV is the Giants' official connected TV streaming app. It brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV and the Giants mobile app. One more reminder, if you joined us late, no show on Monday. We have a couple big-time shoots going on. You'll find out what they are in a couple of weeks. And so we're not going to be here on Monday. And then we have rookie minicamp, not this weekend, the following weekend. So we'll start getting ready for that. Make sure you join us right here on Giants.com and all our social media platforms. And the Giants YouTube page, by the way. Subscribe and follow that as well. For Paul Dottino, for Pearson Butler, I am John Schmeelk. We'll see you on Monday, everybody. Have a fantastic weekend.